Mike was in a hurry to return home. He was wearing a cream-colored shirt, gray pants, and had his blue suitcase with him. He had to work till late at his office, so his wife, waiting at home, was getting really impatient. She kept calling and calling. "That's it. I have to take the shortcut through the alley, otherwise Nora will kill me for being late," Mike thought to himself. If it was daytime, he wouldn't worry about going through the alley, but it was really late and few people were on the street, so he hesitated to take the shortcut. What made him more afraid is when he remembered what he read on the paper a week ago. A body was found stabbed to death in the same alley. But then he imagined Nora's angry face and the time it would take to reach home through the normal route without any taxi. The fear of his wife's nagging overcame his fear of death, as would be the case for most husbands anywhere in the world. It smelled really funny, Mike thought as he made his way through the alley. The smell kept getting stronger. It created nausea, made his head feel light. Suddenly, it felt like everything had gone silent. Then, Mike saw the shadow not very far from him. At first, the shadow was small. It started to grow bigger and bigger. Suddenly, the pin-drop silence broke, and Mike started hearing screeching sounds all around him. The sounds got louder and louder. Screech, screech, screech. The sounds came closer and closer and surrounded Mike. He felt like someone was putting hundreds of knives straight through his skull and into his brain. The large, dark shadow took the shape of a woman. The shadow lifted a hand towards Mike. The fingers had long nails like scythes. Mike tried to scream. He tried to step back, but he no longer had control over his body. He felt like he was getting drawn towards the shadow. The woman was standing just in front of him. The smell had gotten so stronger. Mike felt like his stomach would come out. Suddenly, the scythe-like nails started to come down on him. Mike tried to defend himself with his blue suitcase. The suitcase fell out of his hand. Mike felt an excruciating pain ripping through his stomach and into his heart. He screamed so loud it seemed like his vocal cords would tear off. Everything turned dark for him. "I'm going to regret this decision so much," Jane thought to herself as she made her way through the alley. "What could I do? Father will kill me if I don't reach home in 10 minutes. I had to take this shortcut," she said to console herself. Then she got the foul smell and it made her frightened. "Good thing I brought the kitchen knife with me," she thought as she clutched the knife in her hands from her purse. Ever since she was mugged last year, she always kept a kitchen knife in her purse, just in case. The smell got stronger, and Jane could hear a thumping noise, growing louder and coming closer to her. Then she saw the shadow of a man. To her worst fears, she realized that the man had a big chainsaw in his hands. Jane read about brutal murder stories that happened in the alley in the news, but she couldn't believe that she was going to be the centerpiece of the next story. She tried to scream and get back, but she couldn't. The man kept coming closer, with the chainsaw buzzing in his hands, his feet thumping the ground louder and louder. Jane stood frozen. The man was standing just in front of her, with the chainsaw raised in his hands. Jane gathered all the strength she could muster, closed her eyes, raised her hand with the kitchen knife, and started striking as hard as she can. The sound stopped. There was silence everywhere. Jane finally had the courage to open her eyes. "Am I alive? Or am I dead? I must be alive," she thought to herself. Then she looked down at her feet. A man was lying down, wearing a cream-colored shirt and gray pants. There was a blue suitcase resting just beside him. The man had stab wounds all over his chest and stomach. Blood was oozing out from the wounds. To her horror, she noticed that the kitchen knife that she was still holding in her hand was drenched in blood. "Oh my God, I killed this man," she screamed. The knife fell from her hand. She ran away as fast as she could. "Fuck my damned fucking luck," Trevor shouted. "Lost my bet 2 nights in a row." He really thought the man would obliterate the girl, but instead, the girl stabbed the man to death. Other members of the gang were enjoying themselves as they had won the bet. The fear gas does wonders to people, Trevor thought to himself. It really brings out the beast in them. Who would have thought an innocent-looking girl could kill a man so easily? It had become a game to the Death Alley Gang, as they called themselves. They would spread the fear gas and wait for the passerby to pass through the alley. They would bet on who would kill whom. They would wait in the dark and observe the whole thing. To them, nothing was more fun than to watch one person kill another violently.